I'm with Clint Lamb, both of BamaInsider.com, coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Clint, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. How you doing, man?
You know, the college football season, once it's over, there's this long time of sadness before the next season comes. And when the next season comes, it goes by so fast. Here we are, week 1, Alabama taking on Utah State. Utah State, the Aggies coming in. Utah State got a chance to play in week 0 against Connecticut. I'm sure you watched that game, Clint. I did as well. Tonight, we're going to take your calls later on in the show, probably around the 20-minute mark, something like that. But I wanted to bring Clint on. He's our team writer, does a fantastic job. Follow him on Twitter at Clint R. Lamb. I got that right, Clint, right?
Absolutely. You nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it. What's the latest line, Clint? Have we looked at it? Is it like 33?
Yeah. Like 32 or 33. I think it was 32. It might have climbed to 33. I don't know. It's changing.
Saying, it's up. Give us a roll tide. Let us know where you're coming from inside the comment box. Okay, Chris is saying 33. Are you going to take that?
What's that?
Would you take that? 33?
I mean, no. And the reason being is I think Alabama's going to be able to run all over Utah State.
Yeah.
So if, the cornerbacks, you're trying to work some things out on that front, you give up maybe a big play, they're able to put up maybe a touchdown, a couple of touchdowns, or you're just running a lot of clock because running the football is successful. I mean, UConn last week ran that running back, I forget his name, but he rushed for close to 200 yards and averaged almost 10 yards an attempt. So whether it's Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs headlining the group, I think they're going to be able to run the football. That could shorten the game, and that's a lot of points when you start doing that. Now, granted, I could easily see Alabama covering that number, but as Cecil Hurt used to tell me all the time when we had some shows together, don't bet the milk money on
it. Hey, we see you inside the comment box. What's up, Still? Thanks for joining us. Roll Tide back to you. Johnny, what's good? I appreciate you joining us tonight. Robert, always believe in Alabama. We always appreciate your support. Let us know where you guys are coming from inside the comment box. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Fam, honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate you guys being a subscriber of BamaInsider.com. Almost 76,000 strong right here. Robert's up in Wisconsin. Robert, long story short, I almost went to school up at St. Norbert, north of Green Bay, I believe. It was just too cold for me. Now I found myself in the warm weather of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We got a football game this weekend, fam. Alabama taking on Utah State. The storylines, haven't been that entertaining this fall camp because Alabama's returning Bryce Young and then the Nagurski Award winner in William Anderson. However, there's been a couple different storylines that have popped up, Clint, and I think you have to look at the freshmen who are getting some notoriety early in this fall camp season. You have Kobe Prentice on the offensive side, and then you have Jaheim Otis on the defensive side. Your take on how these two might be used during week 1 against the Aggies?
Well, the first thing about both players is I don't think either one, was a necessity. And I think that should be noted. If with some teams they bring in young guys and they have to get production out of them because they have a huge need there. At receiver, you can make an argument maybe, but I still think that Kobe Prentice, it was his talent that elevated him to where he's at. They had a lot of other options they could have gone with, capable options. And with Jaheim Otis, we knew the defensive line was going to be extremely deep. They didn't have to have Jaheim Otis. Both of these guys are kind of icing on the cake, or the cherry on top, I guess is the way to put it. As far as Jaheim Otis is concerned, the thing about him, I will be very curious to see how Alabama utilizes him on Saturday, because you do have that, Logan Bonner, the quarterback for Utah State, and that Utah State passing attack. I think they're going to be able to throw the football, or they're going to try to throw the football. And so that's going to present some opportunities for Alabama's pass rush. If Jaheim Otis just so happens to be in there when that happens, we'll get to see him pass rush a little bit. But they also had a lot of success running the football as well against UConn. So if they continue to try to do that, we'll get to see if he can, if he can be this immovable object everybody's been talking about in fall camp. And then with Kobe Prentice, same thing. I'll be very curious to see how he's utilized. We know he's going to line up in the slot. Is he kind of a volume guy? Is he a guy who draws attention away? Do they send him vertically from the slot? I'll be curious to see how they utilize both those two guys, but there's a lot of promise going into week 1.
Here with Clint Lamb of BamaInsider. My name is Kyle Henderson. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys more than you know. I have to chuckle inside the comment box. So I'm from New Mexico. If you don't know, I've been here for 5 years, but I'm from New Mexico. And we have someone in the comment box saying that they're from Albuquerque, which is AKA like Woodcast. So it's we see you inside the comment box. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Pensacola, Florida, of course. We're talking Alabama versus Utah State. Chris is telling me, actually, Clint, inside the comment box, that Alabama is a 48.5 point favorite. Now seeing it at 41.5. That's where it's residing right now. So Alabama certainly favored, coming in as the number 1 ranked team in the entire country. And rightfully so. I mean, you have Bryce, you have William Anderson on both sides of the ball, but as Clint was just alluding to, when you have some of these freshmen, those have been some of the storylines that we've kind of been grabbing on going into this first game. Clint, you put together a wonderful video. Go check it out. It's called Top 5 Players to Watch Going Into This Game. You start out with Terran Arnold, someone from the Tallahassee, Florida area. And then you also talked about Jahmyr Gibbs, the Georgia Tech's transfer. We don't have to say he's a transfer anymore. He's the Alabama starting running back. Why don't you kind of lead off talking about what you expect from Terran Arnold in that corner position, being that, there's been a little bit, I wouldn't say of some new names that have jumped out, but the corners coming in, there was a lot of position battles. So start with the corners and then let's talk running backs.
Yeah, I think that with the corners, it's interesting because we thought that this was a 3-man competition going in, and really Tyrion Arnold has forced his way into the conversation and become that 4th competitor. And not only has he forced his way into the conversation, he's leading that conversation. We think it's going to be him and Kool-Aid McKinstry as the first 2 guys on Saturday. I mean, it could still be Kyrie Jackson. I won't completely rule that out. I don't think it's going to be Eli Ricks. But, Tyrion Arnold is a guy who was making that transition from high school safety to college corner, and that took a little bit of time, but now the talent's starting to shine through, and you're starting to see a guy who's a lot more comfortable and confident in year 2, and that's a great combination when you throw in his skill set. But playing against Utah State, if Vegas is correct, 31.5, 41.5, whatever it ends up being, 72.5, whatever that line is, if Vegas is right, we're probably going to see all 4 of these guys, which I think will present the perfect opportunity to see exactly where some of these guys stand in live game, action. And we'll put some stuff on film for the coaching staff to go back and evaluate. So it's a deep group. It's a promising group. We think they have plenty of options. It's just, they're still trying to work out who's going to be the top 2 guys. And we really haven't seen a whole lot of cornerback rotation unless there's been injuries in the past. So whoever ends up establishing themselves as the starter, whenever that ends up happening as the clear-cut starter, it might be a permanent thing. It might be something where you're seeing, a 90% snap share.
Clint, today we were listening to the SEC teleconference from Nick Saban. Again, you can listen to that, watch that in its entirety on our YouTube channel. And Coach Saban said that Drew Sanders would probably be starting if he was still here. Remember, he transferred to Arkansas. I think we're all big fans of Drew Sanders. I mean, clearly he has it. Being a starter this year over Dallas Turner, I think that's a large statement. People were talking about that. Quickly, your take on, maybe a quote that was kind of the quote of the day.
I wouldn't think that he would have started over Dallas Turner. I think when he said that they, thought that he could have been a starter for them, I more so view it as an off-ball linebacker. He probably would have been the guy. Would Alabama have gone and made sure that Jalen Moody came back when he entered the transfer portal had they still had Drew Sanders? I don't necessarily know that they would have, because they would have had Deontay Lawson. They liked his progress and how things were coming along with him. But Drew Sanders, he played a lot of different positions in high school: wide receiver, tight end, an edge rusher, an off-ball linebacker. And I feel like that his upside as a pass rusher was so limited. Very, any success that he had was very hustle related. And I think that's why fans love him. He was a hustle player, but I never saw just the same kind of upside as I did with any of these 3 other outside linebackers that Alabama has. So if he would have come back and returned, could he have been involved in that outside linebacker conversation? I think because he's so effective dropping into coverage, he does provide some run support. Plus he's a high energy guy. He might have contributed, but I don't think he would have started. I think when Nick Saban brought that comment up, he was alluding to, right now, Drew Sanders is playing off-ball linebacker for Arkansas. Yeah. And Nick Saban looks over there and he says to himself, that he could have been doing that for us. So I think that was more so what he was alluding to. We haven't got any sort of confirmation on that, but that's kind of the way I took it because I've always thought that he was a better fit, as an inside linebacker.
The thing about Drew Sanders was, it was unfortunate that he got injured. When I think about Drew Sanders now, I think he certainly would have got playing time with this year's team. I'm with you. I don't think he starts over Dallas Turner. I think Dallas Turner really isn't too far behind William Anderson. But the thing about Drew Sanders, I think he landed at the perfect spot. And I think if there's any transfer that Alabama is going to miss, it is going to be Drew Sanders. I think he has the DNA to really play on Sundays. I think we're going to see him on Sundays. Someone's saying inside the comment box, they would have liked to see him at tight end. I think that's Richard G. By the way, Richard G is a member. You can become a member of our YouTube channel. Just hit the join button at the bottom of this video. We appreciate that, Richard. And I agree with your assessment. I think seeing him at his high school, seeing his high school highlight tape and seeing how he can transition as a tight end, he's just super athletic. And I think, Clint, when we look to Arkansas and the DNA that they have on the defensive side, it's a perfect fit for them. Sam Pittman is a great addition to Arkansas. I think that's going to be a very difficult game. It was a difficult game last year for Alabama here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think it's going to be a challenge when Alabama does travel to Arkansas. There's kind of that stretch of games that is very challenging for the Crimson Tide once they get deeper into SEC play. Here with Clint Lamb of BamaInsider. My name is Kyle Henderson. I'll take your calls probably around the 25 minute mark here with Clint Lamb chopping it up. Chris, give me a thumbs up. Do we have a couple questions ready to go? Okay, why don't we add some of those questions? Earlier this week, I asked you on the comment about, hey, Patriot Life, what's up? We appreciate you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. Goes a long way. And so does the thumbs up. So hit the thumbs up inside the comment box. Earlier this week, I asked our fans on BamaInsider to post questions for the staff. We'd get to those questions sometime during the week. That time is now. Chris, why don't you get to some of those questions? Clint and I will kind of go back and forth. And Clint, why don't you read this first one out?
Yeah. So our secondary is going to surprise everyone with how well they play this year. I have extremely high expectations for our corners. Competition is going to bring out the best of the best. Pineapple Express. First of all, great name.
Well, we all saw Pineapple Express. I mean, come on, we all know that's a great movie, right? I mean, it's a comedy favorite. I'll go first, Clint. I think the secondary, when you look to the secondary, I'm really excited to see how it comes together over the course of the season. I mean, right now, as you alluded to, Clint, Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid, Quincy McKinstry, one of the best names in all of college football. And then you have guys with length. And we talked about that earlier this season, right, Clint? When you have Kyrie Jackson with those really long arms, Eli Ricks as well. And I think over the course of the season, that is going to be a very deep unit. And I think that's important because last year, when push came to shove, especially towards the back end of the season, I don't think Alabama had necessarily that depth in the secondary at the corner position that they needed. Now, Kyrie Jackson certainly has a year under him. Eli Ricks should be healthy at some point. Terrion Arnold, very athletic. Kool-Aid. What's your take on this corner position, Clint?
Yeah, I think last year where Alabama ran into trouble at corner after the injuries to Josh Jobe and Jalen Armour-Davis. First of all, at various points after they really started to get injured, and then at differing points, they ended up having to pull both of them and go ahead, and I think it was Josh Jobe that went ahead and had surgery. But the problem with the young guys is I think their ceiling and their best reps were better than the other two guys. They lack consistency. And, you had a JUCO guy in Kyrie Jackson, which means he had college experience. His first ever start, quote unquote, came in the national title game. You're talking about the biggest game in college football against a very good Georgia team. I mean, that's a little bit of some bright lights. And then you had Kool-Aid McKinstry, a true freshman who had seen quite a bit of action. He had gotten some starts under his belt. But he was a true freshman. He was still growing. He was still learning. And I think that that's where Alabama really ran into issues because you have to understand, even though Kool-Aid had worked his way ahead of Marcus Banks, I think towards the end of the season, a guy like Marcus Banks could have made all the difference in the world because it would have provided depth. It was a guy who had been around for a little while, and you might have been able to get a little bit more consistent play opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry or in front of Kool-Aid McKinstry, either one. And I think that certainly would have helped. So him transferring out, you had two guys get banged up. That affected the position last year. Now you're looking at it, and it really goes way beyond corner, right? I mean, you're talking about star, you're talking about safety, depth, versatility. You can use these guys in a variety of ways. You can line them up in different spots, play to their strengths. And I think you got a little bit of everything. Guys that could put pressure on the quarterback from, a safety spot or, the nickel spot. You've got guys who can cover. It's just a matter of these guys all getting experience, getting more comfortable, figuring out who your starters are going to be, and then rolling with them.
Clint, you do such a good job, man. You're killing it. So, I mean, keep up the good work. Go follow Clint on Twitter. Clint is a team writer. And when we first kind of like morphed into On3, BamaInsider, I had seen Clint on social media, but now getting to understand the craft that he puts in and the terminology and the thing that I love most, and you can go to another question, Chris. Clint, you got to check out his video work and the voiceover and the work that he puts in. So Clint, honestly, it's hard for me to give compliments, honestly, because I just have to really respect the craft, but keep it up, man. You're doing a great job. Really like the vibe and the takes, man. So you're right. Spot on point. Keep it up, man. I really appreciate it. He's Clint Lamb. I'm Kyle Henderson coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, just days away from Alabama's first game, taking on Utah State. Alabama favored by 41.5. Don't eat the rat poison, right, Clint? Don't eat it. Don't eat the rat poison. Nick Saban was pissed off tonight. He's pissed off all the time. But he's dialed in, right? He loves the process. He's not going to buy into the rat poison. Okay, next question. Who do you expect to be the first 3 wide receivers against Utah State? Burton is obviously the number 1 guy from reports I've read. Thanks, Thomas, for the question. Clint, you go first.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Jermaine Burton. I think you're going to see Trayshawn Holden. I think you're going to see Kobe Prentice. I think it's exactly how, the depth chart looks. Now, granted, it is possible that Ja'Cory Brooks could be out there for that first snap. I just think that would be kind of a weird thing to do after you've made kind of this big, bold announcement, which was putting Kobe Prentice in the starting lineup on your depth chart, and that's a huge talking point, and then he doesn't technically start on Saturday. That would be strange, but it's certainly possible. But I think those 4 guys are the 4 main ones you're going to see. You might see some Christian Leary. You might see some Tyler Harrell. I don't know exactly how much he's progressed. We do know that he is moving in the right direction. That's certainly encouraging. But at the same time, if you got 4 quality receivers that you can kind of rely on, guys that are going to bring different skill sets, you bring more of the size aspect with a Trayshawn Holden and a Ja'Cory Brooks, and then you're also bringing, more of a guy who can. I think Kobe Prentice. So when you look at his skill set, and I talked about this earlier, I think you get a guy who can play inside and out. I think he can win at all 3 levels of the field. You can send him vertically from, whether it be as a perimeter receiver or from the slot. I don't know how much they'll allow him to do of that early on. He's a true freshman. It's his first game, but I do think that he's certainly capable. And if he's not doing it early, I think you start seeing him get moved around a little bit more as the year progresses. But I would go with Burton, I'd go with Prentice, and then I'd go with Trayshawn Holden as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, and I'm really glad to see Trayshawn Holden. There's Ja'Cory Brooks, number 7, right there. But Trayshawn Holden finally getting some love. I think he's one of the guys that is put in that time, and I think it was just a matter of time till he really kind of showed out, and we saw him show out. It was in that second scrimmage, right, Clint, when he went for like over 200 yards reportedly or whatever. A lot of people forget this, and maybe they don't know this, but this is kind of an insider nugget. But I believe when Bryce Young, I think it was the first or second year that he got here, because I think Bryce, check this out. Bryce, the first roommate that he had, this is amazing, this is by design, was Devontae Smith, right? So like the mama mentality was being passed on. I think it's like, it's so genius. Whoever was like, okay, Devontae Smith, you are rooming with Bryce Young. So you could learn and be groomed by one of the greatest wide receivers in college football, right? But I think at some point, Bryce and Trayshawn Holden were roommates. I'll have to double check on that. But point is, they have continuity. They have that cohesiveness that you need from a quarterback or a wide receiver, right? If you played football out there, there's no better friends than a quarterback and a wide receiver, usually, right? If they're both not prima donnas, which is, usually sometimes the case. With that said, I think you're right, though, Clint. So you have Trayshawn Holden, Jermaine Burton. It looks like Jermaine Burton is certainly going to be that guy that we expect him to be from that transfer portal. I mean, he's been really making waves, being that vet that Alabama certainly needed. And then Kobe Prentice has been a welcomed addition from that freshman room. And you got to think it's because of a couple injuries. And that's not saying anything negative about Kobe Prentice, but Aaron Anderson, right? JoJo Earl. So then in steps Kobe Prentice. And when your name is called, you have to be ready. And that's something that Nick Saban always preaches. And he just talked about this on Monday about entitlement. Like no one is entitled to anything. And I love that approach. Like you have to work for every single thing that you get. That's why Alabama is Alabama, and Jermaine Burton and those 3 look to be the guys. All right, post another question, Chris. Let's see what else we got. All right, go ahead, Clint, read it out.
Is Trey Sanders really going to get his chance to emerge, or is Jahmyr Gibbs, Jace McClellan, and Roydell Williams too much to overcome. Nick Saban Jr. Would love to meet you, Nick.
You take
I would probably say that I wouldn't say Trey Sanders is being completely phased out, but we talked about it, a couple of weeks ago, right? Last year, Trey Sanders was kind of that number 4 guy, and pretty much everything ahead of him with the way it is now was that way last year, except for you had Brian Robinson instead of Jahmyr Gibbs. It's nothing against him. I don't know exactly how much that, car accident has permanently affected his ability. I still think he has something to offer, and I still think he brings value. It's just, Jahmyr Gibbs obviously is going to be your headliner. I don't think Alabama expected to get him. They thought they were going to be working with what they had. And then when a talent like that comes available, you're going to go out and you're going to pursue it, and you're going to try to bring it in because it can take the running back group to a whole new level. But then you had Jace McClellan, who was a very talented guy, was going to be really involved in the offense last year. And I talked about this in the article that I wrote earlier, talking about the 5 players to look out for against Utah State. Bill O'Brien, historically, with the Houston Texans, he liked to have those pass catching running backs. He had Arian Foster, he had Lamar Miller, he had Duke Johnson. He brought in David Johnson the year he got fired as a free agent, kind of getting up there in age, but he was a guy that could really catch the football out of the backfield. And then when you look last year, Brian Robinson he had the second most receptions from a running back during the Nick Saban era, the first being Najee Harris a couple of years ago. I mean, that's when you think of Brian Robinson, he is a good pass catching running back, but you don't think of, Kenyon Drake or Josh Jacobs or some of these other guys. You would think those would be the ones that would be getting all the targets and receptions. Bill O'Brien loves to use running backs out of the backfield. Jace McClellan was clearly trending in that direction last year. I think some of that work gets taken away by Jahmyr Gibbs, but I do think that McClellan is going to offer a ton. And then Roydell Williams, a guy who's coming back from an injury as well, but he offers so much promise, and he's got a little bit of a power, more of the power element. That's something that I think Alabama is lacking a little bit, or is a little bit of an unknown, I guess is the better way to put it. And so I think it's a great combination of guys. And when you look at the top 3, there's no limitations as far as what you can ask them to do. It's not like Roydell Williams can't catch passes out of the backfield, or Jahmyr Gibbs can't run the football. You can, you've got 3 down guys across the board there.
Yeah, I think regarding the question, and good points, Clint, I think you're right on target again. I think when you look at Trey Sanders, first of all, I think it's one of the greatest comeback stories that we've had in college football in quite some time. There's always these certain players that go through these, whether it's an injury or whatever, but I still kind of rewind when I think of Trey Sanders. When he was in his car accident, I rewind to when they called the university, and I think they said that he might not make it. Like, he literally almost, it was almost fatal, which is terrible. I mean, you look at this young man, he goes down to Florida to visit family, and something like this happens. I mean, bad things happen, of course, but I mean, to a young man with all this ability, a 5-star or whatever, he comes back, has this amazing rehabilitation, and then he puts himself in a position to play again. And he played a lot last year when his name was called. So look, I know where he's at on the depth chart or whatever, down, behind a couple of these other running backs. I one, think it's incredible that he's still playing football. And number 2, look, this is a long season. It's a gauntlet of a year. I don't even think he was supposed to play as much as he did last year. You look to where he was basically at the same spot within the roster, right? Because you had other backs ahead of him. And then Jace went down, Roydell went down, and here comes Trey Sanders. And he stepped up when he had to. And I know he probably didn't have the biggest impact towards the back end of the season, but I'm telling you, it's a gauntlet of a season, and there is zero wrong with having a quality list of running backs when you play this SEC schedule. It's a long season. Is Trey Sanders going to get his? Probably so. You just have to wait. You have to wait and see. Really excited to see this whole running back room. And same thing goes for comeback guys like Jace and Roydell. I mean, this whole running back room, besides Gibbs, has something to prove. They're wearing braces, they're guarding their hip, whatever. Jace went down, Roydell went down. So it's almost kind of like the running back room has redemption this season, along with the new addition of Jahmyr Gibbs. So really, really excited for this running back room, but specifically with Gibbs and Chris, you can probably fire up the call-in line too. You can put the call-in line on the screen. We'll start to take some calls here. But Clint, before I let you go, this running back room, and let's kind of talk about Gibbs real quick, because he was also mentioned as one of your guys to watch. And I know we hit on it a little bit before, earlier in the show. I mean, people have been drawing comparisons to Kenyon Drake. When you look to a back like Jahmyr Gibbs, what do you like in terms of, what he brings and how you could see him utilized with Bill O'Brien, and just kind of that top end speed? Who is Kenyon Drake a fair comparison?
I don't think it's a terrible comparison necessarily in the way that you could utilize him, but I don't think he's very similar in skill set. When I think of Kenyon Drake, I think of an Emmanuel Henderson type. You got to think he's playing wide receiver right now, but he kind of has that running back wide receiver duality a little bit. If Alabama would have needed Kenyon Drake at wide receiver early in his career, he might have played his entire career at receiver. It's just the way that things kind of cut, but they're very similar in that way. I see a lot more of Alvin Kamara in Jahmyr Gibbs. And the one thing, you don't have Butch Jones completely handcuffing Alvin Kamara like you did in college. And you've got a guy in Bill O'Brien, who I think is going to utilize Jahmyr Gibbs correctly. This is a guy who, even though he's only 5'11", 200 pounds, he doesn't shy away from contact. In fact, he embraces it. He's a guy who's very elusive in the open field. There's nothing that you look at in his game and you say he's limited in this way, other than he's not going to be a hammer near the goal line. Not saying that he can't do it. It's just, that's not going to be a strength of his. And I do have at least some question marks about his pass protection. It's not that he can't do it. It's just when he was at, Georgia Tech, they were playing from behind a ton. Don't get me wrong, but you just didn't see a whole lot of him pass protecting. And, I'll be curious to see when he gets at Alabama and he's asked to do it, can he do it? It's not that he can, it's just I don't know. So I love what he's going to be able to bring to the table for Alabama with his explosiveness and just having that home run hitter. And you got to think back to last year. What are the things? It's kind of incredible what Bryce Young was able to achieve, because what are some of the things or elements that you look at and say, this is what helps a quarterback be successful? Obviously a play caller that you can trust. Mm-hmm. Bill O'Brien making the adjustment, coming over from the Houston Texans, moving levels, that certainly affected things. It was his first year. I think he's going to be a lot better in year two, a lot more comfortable. He had to learn Alabama's offense, not the other way around. But then the offensive line kind of struggled a little bit. And then you had the running back injuries, which, added more, as far as not only is Bryce Young not getting protection, but he didn't have that complementary run game to take pressure off of him. And with Jahmyr Gibbs and with all these other guys, I mean, he's going to have I think the offensive line takes a big step forward. I think just due to running back depth and being healthy, I think the run game takes a big step forward. And I'm excited to see what Bryce Young can do when he actually has some of this stuff in his favor.
Great stuff, Clint. I love having you warm up the show, man. Great job. Follow Clint on Twitter. Clint R. Lamb does great work back at BamaInsider. He's our team writer, along with Andrew Bone, recruiting, Joseph Hastings, recruiting, Jimmy Stein, our message board warrior and Alabama expert. Tons going on at BamaInsider. So definitely check out their great work, getting you geared up for this weekend as Alabama takes on Utah State. We'll have the post-game show. You got Mick Gillespie. You got Jay Barker. I think Jay Barker's won a game or two, right, Clint?
A couple.
Right? Yeah. So we got the whole crew. And Clint, I mean, always great to have you on, man. You continue the great work. Keep up the grind. Real, recognize, real. And we'll catch you next time.
Absolutely, Kyle. It's good hopping on here with you, brother. Yeah, talk to you soon.
Absolutely, man. Clint Lamb, ladies and gentlemen. Go check him out. All right. Call line is open, 205-850-1994. Where were you in 1994? I was actually in fourth grade. Living in New Mexico. So yeah, that's the call line number. You want to talk Alabama football? I want to hear from you tonight, taking your calls. Alabama taking on Utah State. Put this back on the screen so you guys can check out the actual game time information. I mean, sometimes it's just like, what channel is the game on, right? When you actually look to, these type of games. And this game will be on the SEC network. As you can see, the TV play-by-play will be Tom Hart. Analyst will be Jordan Rogers. And you got sideline will be Cole Kubelik. So I think that's a pretty good staff. When you look to last week, Utah State took on UConn. Alabama was obviously open in week 0. But Utah defeated Connecticut, and that was a score of 31-20. When you go inside the series, And by the way, the call-in line is open 205-850-1994. When you go inside the series between the two teams, you can see that Alabama leads this all-time series 2-0. Current winning streak, currently 2-0. And the last time they met was back in 2005 with Alabama winning 35-3. Now, when you look at the line, and as we talked about that earlier in the show, which is the rat poison, Alabama is favored 41.5 points against Utah State. Utah State got a lot of positive praise from Nick Saban this week. And I think one of the things that we're all interested in is to see how Alabama can deal with Utah State and how they spread the field, right? I think you go sideline to sideline, and I think that those corners will certainly get tested this week going against a team that goes up tempo, that likes to spread you thin. So I'm curious to see how Alabama responds to that, especially with some of these corners. I think, hey, Chris, can you put up a couple more questions while we kind of wait for some calls to come in? I think we can answer a couple more questions as we kind of look to this first matchup. Okay, we have another question coming in from Jersey Dolphins. Jersey Dolphins has been a long-time subscriber right here on our channel. We got a call coming in, and we'll take that in a second after I answer this question. Really have a gut feeling that this nil will have a huge bite from the NFL in the very near future. In my opinion, the main focus better be shifting towards college ball and NIL. I think when you look to NIL and how it's going to impact the world of college football, I mean, we're already seeing it. William Anderson driving around in a Porsche, Bryce Young driving around in a BMW, and the deals that these guys continue to get. Look, NIL is here, and I think the great thing is Alabama has embraced it. Nick Saban has continued to evolve with a changing world of college football. And I think there's going to be continued rules that are put around NIL. So I think it's always going to be changing as we go forward. But yeah, Jersey Dolphins, we appreciate you inside the comment box. We'll go to our first call of the night. It's a 334, and we'll take it now. Hey, good evening. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
What's up, man? It's Jeff.
Hey, what's up, Jeff? How you doing, man? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, I was just looking at the players that come in and all the ones I think Gibbs is going to make a pretty big impact on this team.
Do you think that it's a fair assessment? We got Jeff Stapleton, right?
Yeah,
I knew who you were, man. Jeff, it's been so long since you called in, man. I feel like I missed you. I was like, where's Jeff Stapleton within our call? I mean, the last year you called and you would light it up. So I was waiting for you to call back, man. Before we get started, what'd you have for dinner, man?
Sandwich.
Just a sandwich? Come on now.
Sandwiches and chips.
Hey, that's all right with me. Hey, so tell me about Jahmyr Gibbs. Do you think that a fair comparison is to Kamara, Kenyon Drake? What are you excited to see from him in terms of what he brings to the table for this running back room?
I don't think he's a Kenyon Drake because, if you notice Kenyon Drake, if he didn't get a good head of steam on him, he wasn't going nowhere. So he's and the film that I watched on Jahmyr Gibbs on the GT games when he was just a freshman, he was already jumping over people and stuff. And come on, that's pretty much Najee right there. I mean, that's what Najee was doing, jumping over people.
Let me ask.
Didn't he invent it? Pretty much.
I mean, Najee was just he was different, right? I mean, he was just a different type of beast because he was everything. I mean, it was like he's like built like Derek, but I felt more athleticism, right? I mean, what he was able to do, I think was, he's just different. You see what he's doing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me ask you this, Jeff. When you're going into this season and you're kind of looking at this team, what are your biggest question marks? And I ask this because like this team is so loaded. Offense, you have Bryce Young returning. Defense, you have William Anderson. But when you look to this team, what is a question mark that you have about this team, about a particular position? I want to hear some questions from you.
The elephant in the room has always been for me since last year has been the offensive line.
Yep.
Because we had a lot of trouble with that. I mean, he got knocked down 47 times. and that could have been a lot more scores. Could have been a lot more close. It could have been a lot more, games where you didn't have to worry about it coming down to seconds or and stuff like that. So that's one of them. And the running backs. What's your question on Jace McClellan this year? What do you think he's going to do? Because he looks pretty determined.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Jace. I think that if Jace is at any other program across the country, he's the featured back, probably outside of Ohio State, because Kyle Henderson is an absolute monster. No relation, by the way. But I'm a huge fan of Jace, and I don't think that this injury is going to slow him or Roydell Williams, who also had, some sort of a lower body injury. I think those guys are going to be beasts this season. And like I said earlier, when I was answering the question about Trey Sanders, look, this running back room, all these guys are dealt with some serious injuries, and I think it's a credit to Alabama's strength and conditioning staff to get these guys back to where these guys needed to be to contribute at this level. Even when you look kind of down to the younger guys, you got Jamarian Miller, who I think could probably get his feet wet. And then Emmanuel Henderson, they've moved him to wide receiver. Maybe they see a little bit of value there, but the running back room overall is just unbelievable. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think we just got not even a taste during the spring game. And I think he's about to go off. If you're doing like over under prize picks or something like that, and you have Jahmyr Gibbs over like $150, I think he might rattle off close to 170, 200. I think that we're going to see something really special from Gibbs on Saturday. What else you got, Jeff?
Well, the way that UConn was gouging Utah State, he's gonna have a field day, in my opinion.
All right, Jeff. Well, I appreciate you calling in, man. Please call again next time, man. Don't be a stranger, and we got room for you all the time right here on Bama Insider. Cool?
Will do, brother.
All right,
take it easy. Roll Tide.
Yep, roll Tide to you. All right. That was Jeff Stapleton. He didn't even have to say where he's from. I know Jeff's out in Selma. Call line is open. 205-850-1994 is the call number. Hit me up. I want to hear from you. I want to talk Alabama football with you. I want to get your take on this Utah State game. Line is 41.5. Don't eat the rat poison, or should you? I want to hear from you. So let me know. We got a call in the queue. Is another 334. We start now. How you doing? It's Kyle Henderson, who I'm on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hunter from Alabama.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Well, good. How are you?
Good, man. Could you? I think you might have had your volume turned down in the back, but you're good. I can hear you nice and clear, man. Thanks for joining the show once again. We always appreciate hearing from you. All of our callers, who frequently call in, it's good to hear from you. Hunter, when we look to this weekend's game, before you ask me a question or you provide some input, this receiver room has some new names. Jermaine Burton, Kobe Prentice. It looks like Trayshawn Holden has started to emerge. We talked about that with Clint Lamb earlier. What is your take of this wide receiver room? What are you looking forward to seeing on Saturday?
I'm really looking to see what Trayshawn Holden's able to do. We've seen a glimpse of what his potential is last year. I'm really high on Christian Leary as well. I think he will emerge, especially since JoJo Earle is hurt. And then we've also heard some good things about Emmanuel Henderson at the position as well. So I think all of them guys will get reps this week and and next week against not next week, probably against Louisiana Monroe, the following week up to Texas. So I think all of them guys will get a chance to show what they can do. I think there's Jermaine Burton, probably has the lockdown on his position, but I think there's some competition at the starting position there, going forward after next week.
What else is on your mind when you look to week one of the college football season regarding Alabama and Utah State?
This is a game where you really just need to see, kind of what your team's going to be and what the identity of this team's going to be. And so that's the main thing I look for in these types of games, especially when you're playing, and you're not playing a big opener. You're not playing against Florida State or somebody like that. You're just really looking to just establish an identity.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what's interesting about this year's team is I think the identity from a leadership perspective is already there. And I think that is really great going into the season, because I think in the years past, it's taken a while for Alabama to build some of that leadership identity. But I mean, when you have Bryce Young returning and you have William Anderson and some of these other starters, I think that it puts you on the right path going into the season. Hunter, what else you got, man?
I'm interested to see, when they released the depth chart, they had Kendrick Blackshire as the other on the other side of that position.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, like I've said before, we already know he's physically built. But this is a guy coming out of high school I thought was just going to be a really good player. And another guy that I like, we've seen last year some, towards the end of the year was Ian Jackson.
Yeah.
So there are some guys out that we have that I think are under the radar right now that could potentially emerge, as the season moves along.
Yeah, I think people would go wild if they saw Kendrick Blackshire, get on the field. I think that's somebody that everybody has been eager to see from that linebacker's perspective, certainly because he broke the internet back in high school, when he looked like he was ready for the NFL. I'm kind of curious about Jalen Moody myself, because I put up a stat today. I was looking at the stats on this morning, and I saw that Jalen Moody has played in 55 total games, which is the most games played within the entire roster, and he started 0. So he's going to make his first start on Saturday against Utah State, and I'm really excited for him. I mean, this is a guy who entered the transfer portal, came back, talked with the coaches, felt that they could have an opportunity for him. So he's going to be a starter. And I really like that storyline. I've always been impressed with his athleticism. He's done a lot of things on the special team standpoint. So I'm kind of watching Jalen Moody. And I'm also watching this comment inside the comment box. Snoopy gets in there and he's like, why can't I cook a grilled cheese? Help, please. Yo, Snoopy, we got to get you some help, man. Grilled cheese isn't that hard. So we appreciate you guys in the comment box. Hunter, do you have anything else before we move on to our next caller?
No, I just like to make a short comment here after what you just said. I think the thing with Jalen Moody has been consistency. I think the reason he hasn't started is because he's been somewhat inconsistent. We did see him against Arkansas, to where he was able to come in and he did a really good job in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in some other spots where he got a chance to play, I just think that the coaching staff felt that he played with, he needed to play with more consistency.
Yeah.
And I think he's had, over the fall camp, has probably had a lot of reps. So I think he'll do good things. I really do. I'm really hopeful for him because, this is a guy that I've liked as well. I've seen the potential in him. So I'm just, at the end of the day, man, I'm just glad to have football back. I think another big game, not Alabama related, but I think that this Florida and Utah game is going to be really, really interesting this Saturday. So, there's a lot. I'm just glad to have football back.
Yeah, me too, Hunter. Well, anytime you want to call, man, you know the number. So we'll always get you in. We appreciate you calling, man.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, that was Hunter, and hey, I appreciate you guys helping out Snoopy in the comment box with that grilled cheese. Creed's like the trick's to use a ton of butter. Yeah, pretty much, right? I'm really excited to see a bunch of these college football games. Let me know inside the comment box which college football game other than Alabama and Utah State are you going to be watching. I have a feeling it has to do with Ohio State and Notre Dame. That's a game that we are all looking forward to. I can't wait to see this Ohio State team. I think this Ohio State team is going to be the real deal. I mean, you look at kind of the starters that they have coming back. I'm excited. And Notre Dame, we'll see. I got a feeling the Buckeyes might take it to them. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My name is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider. We got a couple calls coming in. We appreciate you guys. Super chats are awesome, but a thumbs up goes a long way. Thank you very much for being a subscriber of our YouTube channel. If you want to be a member, hit the join button at the bottom of this video. We take our next call. We got a 205 coming in right now. Hey, good evening. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey, can you hear me, Kyle?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. What's up?
Hey, this is Park from Tuscaloosa. I saw the show and I was like, I'm going to jump on and call, but it sounds like I was getting on. How you doing today?
What's up, man? I had a great day. What about you?
It was good. I'm excited to see the tie roll this weekend, so it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see how we do.
Yeah, when you look to this game, I mean, what are you looking forward to? I mean, because look, people can look at this game and they might not be super interested. I'm like really interested to see this Alabama team, to be honest. I think when you look to Alabama and kind of the storylines that are coming in, I mean, clearly this team is always going to have the target on its back, but I mean, they have to put everything together if they really want to make a run. I mean, we all know the ultimate goal for this team is a national championship. So when you look to this team, you look to the storylines, like what are you looking at this Saturday?
So I am very interested to see how we do on the cornerbacks because, last year that was kind of iffy. I know, with our safeties, we're pretty strong and, obviously the edge is the best in the country.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to hear your opinion. Who you think is going to be, mid-season our starting two cornerbacks? Because we got such a great group. I'm really interested to see who it's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because I think Terrion Arnold having an opportunity, this is a great opportunity for the corners going against Utah State. I don't think people understand how well that Utah State is going to spread out Alabama. And I think it's going to be great for them, especially later down the season when they face more teams that can go up tempo. That's one of the things that I noticed against UConn was that Utah State really hit the gas and they spread you sideline to sideline. So it's going to create a lot of opportunities for those corners. I'm curious to see if Kool-Aid can continue to show a great amount of improvement. I've always been a big Kool-Aid fan, and I know Nick Saban has as well. And then you have the two vets in there, right? Kyrie Jackson and Eli Ricks. And what those guys have is length, right? When you look to their arms, literally their arm length is incredible, and that helps with press coverage.
Oh, yeah, they're both huge.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
they're really
it's almost like it's almost odd to see how long their arms are, but that's what you want within your corner, especially in press coverage situations. So I don't know. I think that's a great question as we continue to go down the season. And maybe it doesn't have to be two specific guys. Maybe they have depth. And as I said earlier on the show, when you have depth at that corner position, you can keep guys fresh. And I mean, I don't know, but the corner room right now, I feel confident about it. I just want to see these guys in action, specifically Terrion Arnold for me.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see, Kobe Prentice and Jaheim. Obviously, they've been getting talked about so much, but I'm excited to see Jaheim get in there and just rupture that O-line. It's going to be cool to see that.
We haven't had a freshman. I mean, maybe we have, but on the defensive side, on the defensive line specifically, get this much hype in quite some time with Jaheim Otis, right? I mean, and literally he has received praise from Will Anderson, from DJ Dell, from Nick Saban. And those guys don't really give out big compliments unless you're really getting in the weight room, doing the things to really transform your body, to get better as a player, to contribute to the team. That's why I'm excited about Jaheim Otis. I think we did a video earlier in the season about kind of his weight loss transformation, but his weight loss transformation has really transformed to him being a better player. And it looks like, he's a slash starter, which means he's going to be a starter come Saturday. So I love the story about Jaheim Otis. And like you said, Kobe Prentice, I think he found himself, just working hard. And as you saw, when guys get injured, you have to be ready to perform at the highest level. When your name is called, Kobe Prentice, that guy. What else you got for me?
So I got a buddy that works on the team, and I've heard a lot of good things that no one's really been talking about. Deontay Lawson,
Mm-hmm.
he's a lot of people are praising Blackshire, which is awesome too, but I've heard a lot of good things about Deontay Lawson, how he's kind of got like a Rashaan Evans type play, like really fast and explosive, which I'm excited to see. Maybe he can get some play on the field because we haven't had much, sight of him getting to play. So I'm interested to see how that goes about as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, tell me this. I'm glad that you called in. Save the number. Call in again every single Wednesday night. We do this. We talk Alabama football. We have a post-game show that'll start immediately following every single Alabama football game. You're welcome to call any single time. Good feedback, Deontay Lawson. I don't doubt that. I'm also hearing really good things about Jaheed Campbell. And I think when you look to the linebacker play for next year, it's going to be some incredible competition. Kendrick Blackshire, Deontay Lawson, Jaheed Campbell, some of these younger guys that are already making waves. And of course, Dallas Turner will get another shot next year as well. So that linebacker group is certainly going to be ferocious. Have a good night. Please call again next time.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Yeah,
Thanks.
You too, man. That was a good call. I mean, honestly, I love the call-in show because I get to talk to, fans from all over the country. And, it's good to be doing this again. I enjoy the call-in show. My name is Kyle Henderson. If you're a first-time joiner, hit the subscribe button. We got tons of Alabama football coverage. Monday, Nick Saban. Wednesday, Nick Saban. Tuesday, Crimson Headlines. Thursday, Crimson Headline. I mean, we have so much content. And, of course, the post-game show following every single Alabama football game. Alabama taking on Utah State. 6:39 is the kickoff at beautiful Bryant-Denny Stadium this Saturday from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We got our next caller at 334 starting now. Hey, good evening. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who I'm on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey, my name is Wesley, and I'm from Kinston, Alabama.
Okay. What's
small
up?
Town down near Enterprise.
Yeah, what's up, Wes? How you doing tonight?
Yeah, so I've had something on my mind. I listen to the call-in show a lot, and this is my first time calling in. But something that's been on my mind that nobody has talked about is Malachi Moore and Brian Branch being completely healthy for this season. Because, I mean, a lot of people forget Malachi Moore, I thought he was about to break out and be an All-American. I was just convinced whenever I watched him the first year as a freshman that he was about to be the next great Minka Fitzpatrick-like player. And then he got injured. Everybody forgets. But then Brian Branch, you see the same qualities, and it's almost like 1A, 1B in the star position. And that's, I guess it's just a good problem to have, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
You know what? You bring up a great point because as soon as Minka left and Malachi Moore, remember we were calling him like mini Minka because he was giving off those similar vibes. And the thing about Malachi, when he first got on the field, he was literally, it felt like he was in the right place at the right time all the time, right? He was scooping up fumbles. He was everywhere. He was on tip passes, whatever it is. I mean, I have to go back and look at his stats. And then it was such an unfortunate injury because it seemed like he lost some of that momentum. Okay, too bad for him because he's honestly, I think, and I'm curious to see what happens this entire season because I still am very confident in his abilities. And I think we've all seen his body transformation. The dude looks absolutely diesel. It looks like he's put on like 15 or 20 pounds since he first got here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the dude.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like kind of like an outside linebacker.
Yeah, almost. And I mean, yeah, both of them are almost on the shorter side of things, but they still, I mean, coming from somebody that's pretty short myself, I feel for them. But I do, like, I see that, they may not have the length, but they just got to go get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that you're not even worried about their size or their body because they're so much of a go-getter and just being around the ball and just a ball player that you don't worry about it.
And that's why I think like people get like when people talk about the depth chart and they're like, who are the actual starters? I think a lot of people forget that Alabama has more than just 11 starters on each side of the football. I think Alabama is so talented. They really have 18 starters on offense, 18 starters on defense, that's how deep they are. And in essence, I mean, when you look to that star position, I mean, Brian Branch is such a talented player. And I know Sean from Huntsville has brought this up several times, that he's, very dynamic in terms of a corner. So safety, I mean, he's just that versatile of a player. So yeah, I think it's great that you brought up Brian and Malachi. What else you got?
Well, I mean, do you think that there's going to be a package that they're going to both be on the field? I mean, do you see that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think over the course of the season, those guys are certainly going to get their snap counts. One thing that we do on Sunday is we do list all the snap counts from the players. And that's always fun to see. So you get to see, who's played the most snaps and
Right.
whatever. So because it's hard during the game, you might, because it's a TV broadcast, but on Sundays we'll hash it out and we'll go through snap counts. It's always fun to check out. And but I think over the course of the season, yeah, you're certainly going to see Malachi and Brian on the field at the same time.
Yeah. So I got something cool for you.
Okay.
And I'll call back in after the game.
Oh, I'm excited.
But all right. So we'll bet. Do you think that we got more than 5 catches from Xavier Williams on this DB team, on this backfield, on this defensive backfield? Do you think he catches more than 5 balls?
No way.
After waiting in the wings all this time, do you think he goes off a little bit? Do you think I know that he has a little bit of salt, even in a good-hearted way. I think he's been jammed up for this game ever since he transferred.
No. I think Texas is in for a long night. So, look, I got a lot of respect for Xavier Williams. I know he's having fun with these guys, but I don't think he catches 5 balls against Alabama.
No? Okay.
No,
all right.
I'm gonna take the under. Yeah, let's write that down and let's revisit it next time, man. I'm gonna move to my next caller, but I appreciate you calling in.
Yes, sir.
All right, man, take it easy. All right, yeah. Over under for Xavier Williams, I'm gonna say under. What's good, fam? I appreciate you guys joining me inside the comment box. What's up, Jonathan? I see you out there. Peanut Roll Tide. Yeah. Yo, Jonathan, that avatar, I love it. That's Butch Jones smoking a cigar with Alabama. That's a victory cigar. And what was so amazing about that was 1 year after that he transferred from Tennessee to Alabama. Yeah, there you go. So he had never smoked a victory cigar. And then the next year, I mean, I personally love cigars. So, and check out R&R Cigar, by the way, here in town. If you want to outsource or get some other some higher end cigars, you can go to Outsider. There's a box by Jay Cutler. I think it's like $3. I had a couple of them the other night in Nashville. They were nice. Tell them Kyle Henderson sent you. What's up, Sam? I see you inside the comment box. We got a couple of other callers. We'll take those right now. We got a 251. Good evening. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey, man, it's Robert from Mobile.
Robert, what's up? How you been?
Hey, well, after watching Utah State take on the mighty UConn this weekend, I'm pretty much convinced this is a pick-your-score Alabama game. So that being the case, it's like, what do you work on? Which poison do they decide? Alabama decide to give Utah State the most the running game, whether it's run for 500 yards or the passing game, which they get Bryce Young more reps with the receivers. I'm leaning more towards getting more Bryce Young more reps with the receivers, because you can always, as long as the line of scrimmage is blocking properly, either for the pass or the run, you can always get the running game in the work. But that timing with the receivers, that takes time. So I'm hoping they let Bryce light it up with the receivers. Throw some deep balls, get a feel for how fast they are and what they can do. Because that bit us in the butt big time in the championship game when he had all of a sudden he was with a bunch of receivers he wasn't used to. And it showed a couple of times. So I like to get that ironed out more. That's the route they go. Jameer Gibbs and the running back can always rush 300 yards on Texas. Run them into the ground.
Robert,
getting that time with the receivers, that's kind of what I see. What you got, man?
Robert, let me ask you this. Did you feel that later in the season that we saw a progression of Bryce Young's deep ball ability? Because I did. It was like, because at the beginning of the season, I think when we even looked at Pro Football Focus grades or whatever, like he didn't have the best grades down, like 20 yards downfield. But I think later in the season, we started to see this emergence of his deep ball. I don't know if he got stronger towards the back in the season or he put on more. I have no idea. Did you notice that? Were you ever concerned that he didn't have the deep ball ability? What's your take on his passes over 25 yards? I think, you know, towards the later of the season is a kind of a taste of what we're going to get this season. And if that's the case, I mean, he's going to put up some extraordinary numbers. Granted, some of these receivers can stretch the field.
Oh, it showed, you know, that he suffered a bit from being Sarkisian, not getting him in the games earlier the previous season when we were blowing teams out. A lot of times we all was watching the game and say, hey, why isn't Bryce in? Why isn't Bryce Young in? And because Mac Jones staying there a bit longer than, you know, the game was pretty much out of hand, but they were still letting Mac stay in longer than we thought he should have. And it kind of showed early on in the season that Bryce didn't, you know, the reps he didn't get because, the same case was last year when Bryce was playing. Some little blowouts. We didn't get we didn't get the other quarterbacks in as early as we probably should have. Mm-hmm. I hope that changes this year. Where and the receiver, especially the receiver, it really showed on the receiver when Mechie and James Williams went out.
Yeah,
the backups weren't ready to go.
Yeah,
and Bryson had a timing with them.
Robert,
so that hurt us last year.
Robert, when you look to this game, and you look, let's just focus on the defensive side of the ball. I think we all know that secondary with what's up, Bama, in the comment box. When you look to DeMarco Helms, you look to Jordan Battle, new corners. You have Dallas Turner, William Anderson. You got some mixing and matching within the defensive line. A freshman that's emerging in Jaheim Otis. What are you watching on Saturday when you look to this defense? And what do you, improvements? I know Utah State's going to stretch the field. I know it's going to be up tempo. I know it's going to be high. What are you looking forward to from this defense or keeping your eye on?
Well, can they rush the quarterback without the linebackers going in? The front four, can they get a pass rush without the linebackers?
Love it.
That's what I want to see. Because if they do that, then you might as well hand us a trophy now. The season's over. No one's going. If no one can score 30 points in Alabama, they're not going to beat Alabama. And so in that, and the linebackers, if the front four can do it without Will Anderson and Dallas Turner and Latu or some other linebackers rushing in, and they can do that on a semi-consistent basis, we got it. Of course, the running game, they're stopping the run. But, if you can rush the quarterback, chance on the run, you're going to stop the run. So that's definitely that's the main thing I want to see. Because we know what got Georgia. Georgia's secondary wasn't the best. But we exposed it when we had both our top receivers. We exposed Georgia's secondary big time. But when their front four couldn't get in, the secondary got exposed. Well, I think that could be the same with us as well. You don't want those guys having to guard for very long. If you do that, then your secondary don't have to be the greatest in the world. So that's definitely the front four without the linebackers blitzing. Can they get a pass rush? Can they get a pass rush? That's definitely what I want to see. I got one question for you though.
Yeah.
We know this season with the Heisman is going to be, how can we not give it to Bryce Young? We know that's how it's going to go down. We know that's how it's going to go down. What do you think Bryce Young would have to do? What kind of numbers to where it'd be so great that they just say, hey, much as I don't want to give it to him twice and much as I don't want to give it to Alabama 3 times, I just can't deny this guy, this Heisman. He's just too good. My numbers are 5,500 yards, 55 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I'm going 5-5-5. What do you think?
Man, when you look to Bryce Young and the numbers that he put up last year, it was honestly like a video game, right? I'm looking at the stats right now. He had 547 attempts, 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Now, I talked about this kind of this summer. When you look to the past quarterbacks, when you look to Jalen, Tua, Mac, and you look to Bryce, when you looked at those numbers collectively by season, it was actually Mac who had the highest efficiency. But when you look to those record-breaking stats, then you go to Bryce. So I like your assessment. I mean, I think that it's a possibility. I mean, man, it would be incredible if he throws for 50 touchdowns this year. I'm going to say under on 50 touchdowns. Maybe we come back and look at that again. I'm definitely going to say over 40 though. So man, 47's a grip. I'm curious to see kind of that efficiency in what he does. I think a lot of that is going to have to do with how well these receivers are able to catch the ball in space, deep ball, one-on-one situations, etc., and especially how these running backs are going to be utilized in the backfield, because I think that Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to be a nice little combination with the fact that Gibbs catches the football so well out of the backfield, and I think that's going to pick up some chunk yards for Bryce Young when you kind of look at the statistics at the end of each game. So I don't know. Look, kind of regarding the Heisman, again, rat poison category. But when you have, I'm going to tell you what, Bryce Young's going to be there, but I am going to be livid, pissed if William Anderson isn't up there as well, because I felt when you look to what he did last year, 17 and a half sacks, like it's mind boggling that he wasn't up there at the podium. And I kind of feel the same way about Najee Harris with the numbers that he put together as well. So look, Bryce is going to be there. So is CJ Stroud. And if William Anderson's not there, something went terribly wrong, because that young man is, I think, pound for pound, one of the best defensive players that we've had in college football in quite some time. What else you got, Robert, before we move to our next caller?
Oh, yes, real quick. Well, if Will Anderson goes to the Heisman ceremony, then Bryce Young definitely won't win because they'll split the vote. There's nothing else. So it's kind of like you want him there, but you don't want him there if you want Alabama to win it again. But yeah, I think if he does like 50, if he passes like for 40, if that's for 45 touchdowns passing and gets another 10 touchdowns running, that could be a huge. I mean, that's what I think. It'd be really tough for them not to give him a Heisman 3 times. I mean, Heisman back to back. But we know the votes are going to be to not give it to somebody from Alabama. That's going to be the bias. We know that going in. So
yeah, well,
all right, man.
I appreciate it, Robert. Thank you so much, Robert from Mobile, Alabama. Always a good call. We appreciate Robert calling in. We got another call. We'll take it, and we'll probably wrap up with this call for the night. It's a 256. Hey, good evening. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Kyle, what's up with you, man? This is James from Sheffield.
Hey, what's up, James? How you doing, man? Appreciate you calling in.
Man, I'm kind of disappointed with my Alabama people, man, because I don't feel like we put enough pressure on Bill O'Brien. And we gave him too many excuses with this whole O-line talk, man. I mean, his lack of creativity was pathetic, man. His flow for the game, his feel for the game was horrible. Like, I feel like him and Doug Marrone, they was two of the worst hires Nick done ever did, man. But that's just me, man. And everybody loved to blame the whole, we had two receivers go down and the reason why we couldn't beat Georgia. But what I'm saying is, man, you had a whole year, man. Bill, you should have been coming up with, I got a big body receiver, Trayshawn Holden. Let me see if I can figure out something like a back shoulder fade to this man. You see what I'm saying? Or we've been working Christian Leary out with the running backs all year. Okay, let me see if I can. If I line Slay Bolden up back there, why won't I line Christian Leary up back here and try to hit him with a little out route? You know what I mean? Let's just see if we can get that 10 flat speed to ball. Bill O'Brien creativity was very, very, very horrible, man. But I don't know, Kyle. I
you know what?
Feel like we put enough pressure on him.
Let me talk about something, because I think you bring up an interesting point. I think everybody knows how everybody feels about Doug Marrone, right? I mean, that's kind of been the talk, and I think even some of the offensive linemen had said that Eric Wolford has been a welcome addition. So I think it goes without saying that they're happy that Doug Marrone is out. Now, regarding Bill O'Brien, you know, it was interesting last year. All Alabama had to do, they didn't have to score a touchdown. They had to pick up a first down. and they're throwing it into the end zone late in the game, right? So I think it kind of adds to your point where, sometimes keep it simple in the fact to get creative to get a first down. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Use the weapons that you have in the backfield. And being that Alabama didn't have John Mechie and Jameson Williams, who else could step up in that role, right? You have all year, like you're saying, and you can't get a first down to kind of keep the chains moving. So I think it's a welcome call, and I think those guys should get the criticism, being that they are in that position to make those type of calls. Now this year, with his incredibly loaded backfield, the wide receivers, granted, some of them are new, but you have your returning quarterback. So my question to you is, do you think that Bill O'Brien, what is he going to do now that he has another year of continuity with Bryce Young? I think because what we've heard from Bryce Young is it has been positive, but I get what you're saying. You got to be creative and mix it up, especially when you get to the back end of that gauntlet of a schedule. On the road to Arkansas, taking on Jimbo Fisher at home. You got Tennessee on the road, and then you got an open week. You got LSU. That's a tough stretch of games. You got to be creative to even with Alabama. Look, no game in the SEC is an automatic win, right? You got to mix it up. You got to keep that offense creative, even with a quarterback like Bryce Young.
Yeah, man, and then Pete Golden, man, this is the year, man. We got 4 cornerbacks we feel like we can start, right? Man, we need to see y'all line up straight man-to-man on these people and quit playing the games, man. Let the dogs go eat. Let Will Anderson and Dallas Turner them get after the quarterback, and we're going to line up man-to-man like everybody else do us. And we just come after the quarterback, man. Ain't no sense in sitting there playing around like and calling these weird cover schemes and stuff. I don't really get where we coming from. And we need to see some intensity out of the defense. I mean, I don't know if we need to see Golden jump up and down like Kirby used to or something. But man, we got to see some intensity out of our defense. It can't just be Will Anderson getting a sack and everybody's, oh yeah, now we riled up. No, man, we need to see a big hit. Toto, you come through here and clean somebody up, right? We ain't seen him hit nobody, Kyle. We ain't seen a Reuben Foster type hit in how long?
I think that's another great point too. I think that's another great point too. I mean, if there's anyone with any more pressure, it's Pete Golding. I mean, because he has all these defensive components. Add on the Nagurski Award winner with William Anderson, Dallas Turner. I mean, there's like zero excuses for this defense not to be one of the best defenses that Alabama's had. Your last point before we end the show, James. Go ahead, take it away, man.
Man, Roll Tide, man. I love y'all. I'm excited. The anticipation killing me. Roll Tide, man. I just want to see more out the coordinators, man. Man, it can't always be the players, man. I mean, goodness, Bill, you got to the 5-yard line against Georgia 4 times and couldn't score. You see what I'm saying? We got to have better creativity out of Bill. And Roll Tide, man. I love y'all.
Yeah, I love you too, man. I appreciate the call in, James. And call again, please. Call again for our post-game show. We appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. That's a great way to end the show. James, speaking the truth, right? Hey, fam, I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, we made it to the college football season. Utah State taking on Alabama this Saturday. Kickoff time 6:39. Beautiful Bryant-Denny Stadium under those lights. Go out there, check it out. Tailgate's going to be incredible. Weather should be phenomenal for this game for Alabama. Follow us all week long on our coverage. Be sure to hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that stuff. We got the post-game show following Nick Saban's press conference right here on our YouTube channel. We sincerely appreciate you guys being part of our 75,000 subscribers right here. Let's inch closer to 100,000. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. I appreciate you guys, and we will catch up with you soon. Good night, fam.